Welcome to Michael's Record Collection. I'm very excited to have with me today someone who's best known as the lead vocalist for the band Saga, Michael Sadler. Thanks for your time today, Michael.
My pleasure. Hi.
Hi. So you've got a brand new project that you're a part of called ProgJect, and this is the ultimate prog rock experience, and I can't wait to find out more about that. I just saw your tour dates came out, and I'm lucky enough to be near, I think, your last tour date in Largo, Florida. It's not too far from where I am, so I'll be checking that out in April. But I want to start out by doing something I normally do at the start of the show, and that's asking you, what was the first record that you ever owned?
The Monkees.
Really? The first one?
The first one. Oh yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I was in love with the show. I thought the TV show was amazing. At that time it was just one of those. It just worked. Everything about it worked. And I liked the music too. The songs were great. Was it Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart? I think wrote the majority of the songs. But yeah, and I mean enough that I think it. If I'm not mistaken, I had a paper route at the time or something like that. And I had my own money, and I used my own money to go down to the record shop when it came in, and I physically bought the Monkees album. So
That's terrific.
that explains my interest in prog.
Yes, it really does.
It's a natural progression.
I stole my parents' copy of that album, so I had
Oh, really?
it too. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and again, I was a fan of the show, and I don't know about you, I gravitated toward the Mike songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Did you have a
I
favorite?
was I not really. They just all, I don't know. It was just really good songwriting, good pop songs with. There was
Mhm.
something different about it. That it cut through the fray, as it were, at the time. I just remember it catching my attention. So
Did you get a chance to see Mike and Mickey on the last tour?
I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I wish I had. Wish I
Yeah.
had.
All right, so the ProgJect, this thing it's keyboardist Rio Akimoto from Spock's Beard, guitarist Jason Bieler from the Baron von Bielski Orchestra and Saigon Kick, bassist Matt Dorsey from Sound of Contact and In Continuum, and drummer Jonathan Mover from GTR and has played with Joe Satriani. How did Michael Sadler get involved with ProgJect?
I uh, through a connection that I have, a friend and someone in the business, the media part of the business, in Jersey, uh, contacted me one day and said that someone, if I would take a call from someone named Jonathan Mover. I didn't know Jonathan before this, and
Hmm.
I got the call, and Jonathan and I spoke, and this is his brainchild. It's something he's always wanted to do, and I think he was sitting with the other gentleman, and he was telling him about his idea, and he said, "Well, I'm trying to figure out who for a vocalist." And the guy said, "What about Michael Sadler?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't think he would do it. That'd be great, but I don't think he would do it." He said, "Well," he says, "Why, do you know him?" He says, "Well, yeah, I've got his number." So we chatted, and Jonathan explained the whole thing to me. It sounded really cool. It's a real labor of love. I mean, it's not a tribute band. It's a tribute
Mhm.
to the genre, as it were, and just paying homage to our peers. The songs that affected us growing up and that. But he explained it all to me, and I said, "Sounds great. Let me know, as it goes forward." He told me who else was going to be in the band, and I knew Rio from before I knew Matt. Um, I didn't know Jason, but we all got together in the first rehearsal, and it's like we'd known each other forever. I mean, we all been around the block a few times, and we all get along really. We all, from the minute we started recording or rehearsing, it was just, this is a family already, and it was really weird because a couple of us had only met for the very first time in that room. So
Oh.
it's good. It's fun. It's challenging. I mean, some of the songs, especially the Yes stuff, because I mean, you're dealing with John Anderson, who's like a freak of nature when it comes to
Yeah.
his voice. And I wasn't sure, and it was the toughest one. Maybe psychologically had something to do with it, but I discovered that I did have the range. It kind of surprised me. And not just being able to hit the notes range wise, but to be able to deliver the performance.
Yeah.
And I listened to it after we'd done it. And I thought, oh, it sounds okay. I'm getting away with it, you know.
There you
So,
go.
but
So
yeah, it's
you guys have some clips online, and it seems
yeah,
to be, it's a great mixture of all of the who's who of progressive rock. Yes, Genesis, ELP,
more of the classic, the early years. Yeah.
right? King Crimson, Pink Floyd, Rush. What is your progressive rock origin story? How did you sort of get interested in the genre?
That's Gentle Giant's fault. Um, one of the first bands I was in, the first serious band, I was, gosh, I guess I was about 17 or so, and I joined this band, which was a blues band at the beginning. Three guys, three-man blues band, and I was fresh out of the church choir, and basically left home, left the church choir, and joined a rock band all at the same time, and school, and just went for it. So anyway, we were a blues band that transitioned basically into well, I came home from work one day, and the guy said, "We got a surprise for you downstairs in the rehearsal room." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, come and see." There's a piano sitting there. I said, why is there a piano?" He said, "Well, we had a meeting and we decided that we should have piano in the band to help, with we could do more tunes if we have a piano." I said, "Okay, well, who's going to play? You're going to," he says, "Well, you are." And I went, are you aware of the fact that I don't know how to play piano?" He said, "You'll learn." Okay. Anyway, that was my introduction to keyboards. And that blues band transitioned to a kind of jazz blues, or blues jazz funk kind of thing, more towards the jazz, and then rock, and so it was leaning towards the inevitable Gentle Giant, which is that kind of fusion of things. But I'd never heard anything like it before. The drummer went into Toronto one day, in the big city, and came back with the album Three Friends, and he said, "Michael, you got to listen to this." So we just put side one on, not a word, turned it over, put side two on, and I just remember when it finished, I just looked at him and I said, "I don't know what that is, but I want to make music like that. I want to start writing music like that. I have no idea what it is, but it's really cool." And yeah, and that changed everything for me.
Yeah. So, what is it about the prospect of singing these classic songs that appeals to you as an artist?
Um, the challenge, first of all, because what I'm dealing with as a singer, as an instrumentalist, you can learn the parts and you can, bring as much of yourself into it as possible, but it's not original material. So there's not a lot of wiggle room as an instrumentalist. You've got to pretty much play the parts
Hmm.
because you're trying to be as authentic as possible, obviously. Um, but as a vocalist, it's tricky because it's not like being say, a Bon Jovi tribute band or an AC/DC tribute band. They look for a singer that sounds like the guy and
Hmm.
hopefully looks a bit like the guy. This is all different singers. So the challenge for me is not to, sound like each one of the original singers, but to do it my way and still deliver the same the same notes and the same melodies. So yeah, it was challenging, and I did have some say in some input to the set list and the songs that we're playing, specifically Rendezvous 602,
Hmm.
and I'd always wanted to do a really good version of Squonk, and we're doing Squonk, and I was like, yay! um, yeah, I mean, for me, it was the idea of the challenge of tackling these songs, and songs that I really love, to listen to, much less perform, and having the chance to sing them is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, based on this, the videos that are online, these seem like they're very faithful covers, but they're not necessarily exactly perfect copies. Not just
Well,
because of the vocals, but because each instrumentalist puts their own
Of
sort of
course, of course.
personality
Yeah,
into it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you could take three guitarists and tell them to learn a part, and they'll each play the notes, but you can tell there's a difference I mean, to the untrained ear, yeah, he's playing it, oh, it sounds the same. No, it doesn't. There's a slightly different feel to when he plays it or when he plays it when he plays it. Same notes, but there's going to
Hmm.
be a different feel to it. And you combine those 5 different personalities, um, and yeah, it comes out. Everybody puts their own feel into it. So no, they're not exact copies. Instrumentally, note-wise, yeah, because you want to, that's the idea of doing the tribute, as it were. But
Right.
yeah, or the cover. You know.
So how did you mentioned that you brought Squonk and Rendezvous 602 into the set? How was the set list sort of shaped? Were there nominations? Did you kind of pick and
No,
choose?
no, it really was. I mean, we all had a chance to say yes, no, blah blah blah. Really, as I said, this was Jonathan's brainchild. He was the brainchild, or it was his baby. He came up with the whole concept and that. So pretty much, he came up with the set list, and these are the songs I'm thinking of doing. And nobody objected or anything. And he said, if anybody has any input, at that point, that's when I said I'd love to do Rendezvous, because I had a connection with John Wetton.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just a beautiful song. I remember the first time. John actually toured with Saga. We did a European tour with John, but it was just John and an acoustic guitar. And
Mhm.
it was magical. He would get up there and just do his 45 minutes or 15-minute set, just acoustic guitar, and it was just mesmerizing. But I remember, excuse me, I was not familiar with Rendezvous 602 prior to that tour. And the first night he played it, I was kind of backstage or at the side of the stage, and I was like, "Wow, this is a gorgeous song, and melody, lyrics, the whole bit." And it affected me so much. I made a point of going out front during his set every night to hear that song specifically. So when I was asked if there's any songs that I'd love to do, I said, if we can, I'd like to try and tackle Rendezvous. Um, and Rio plays it beautifully. I mean, again, you're talking about doing exact covers and that, but the individual players bring their own thing to it. So
Mhm.
when I perform Rendezvous 602 with Rio, it's a push and pull thing. We play off each other. We wait for each other. We feel it out. So the timing is as we feel it. It's a very organic way to do it, and it's great.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and same thing with Squonk. Squonk was just one of those songs that I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, yeah, and I thought Genesis is getting heavy now. I like it, and more rocky, But I always wanted to do a cover of it. My first thought about Squonk years ago was if I was going to do one, I was going to do it like a really revamped, slightly different, like with power guitars mostly and almost no keyboards, and treat
Mhm.
it like that way. But then this came along, the chance to do the song at period, and I thought, yeah, let's do Squonk if we can. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so.
So the tour was just announced. How long has it been since you've done a tour with the pandemic being what it is?
The last time we were on stage, well, last time I was on stage with Saga was beginning of 2020. Right, we were on tour when it hit the fan, and as a matter of fact, this is how close it was. We had, I believe, 4 shows left. We were in Holland. We were in the Netherlands at the time, and we were going to be playing this great club in Zoetermeer. Everybody plays. And like I say, we had really done a great tour, very successful. The fans were wonderful. We had 4 shows to go, and this happened. And I had to skedaddle back to the States as fast as possible because the quarantine flights coming in was about to. I flew in. I think one of the last flights coming in before it took place, and I scrambled to get change my ticket, and that had to cancel
Mhm.
obviously the last 4 shows. Um, and that was that was a fun story coming in. Uh, I think about, well, first of all, it's Chicago Airport. Now, at any given day on any, if you have 4 or 5 international planes landing at the same time at Chicago Airport, immigration it can test your patience, let's put it that way, and endurance or whatever. But now you've got all these planes coming in, and they've got a protocol right after you go through of the testing. So now everything's backed up because it's slowed the whole process down. I think it took me about 6 hours from the time we touched down till I walked outside. It was a great experience. I was taking photos, and I posted them, and even AP said, "Can we use your photo?" Sure. But I mean, it was that fresh. So it's been since the very beginning of 2020. So
you're getting ready to hit the road. Are these shows
oh
going to be?
yes.
Are they going to be recorded? Are you going to have a live album from ProgJect?
I don't know if we'd venture into that territory on the first one. We may record simply for our reference, because it's brand new and fresh. And I mean, we're suddenly realizing, we put the whole thing together and we rehearsed and we did the videos and stuff, and we're all excited and it's sounding good and everything's feeling great. And I was talking to Jonathan yesterday, and I was like, man, we're going to be actually on stage doing this. And we suddenly went, oh my God. So yeah, I think eventually it's inevitable that we'll do some kind of recording and video. At the beginning, it will be for our reference, I'm sure, until we really fine tune it and that. Yeah, I would think that somewhere down the line there'll be some live footage and recordings.
I don't want to
I
get
hope so.
ahead of myself or anything, or ahead of yourselves, but now that you guys are getting ready to hit the road and do this set list, have there been any discussions about what you might do next time out? Is it too premature for that?
Probably a little bit premature, but I mean, but having said that, I am, because of what we've done the set now, we know what the set's pretty much going to be. Having said that, it's made me think of all these other tunes I'd love to do. So there's no shortage of songs we'd like to do, and everybody, has input. Like, what's your favorite? What song has always affected you? Because that's what it's all about. You should have some kind of personal connection to the songs.
Yeah.
Because that's why we're doing this. Apart from just the fun factor, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking I've got a list of songs that I'm going to present.
So
we are doing a Gentle Giant song, which is cool. So
great.
yeah.
Do you want to tease us, or do you want to tell us what it is?
No.
Okay. All right. So you guys
not the one I probably would have chosen if you'd left it up to me.
Okay. I know you guys are doing some instrumentals. There's some songs that on the videos Matt and Jason are singing. What does Michael Sadler do when someone else is singing or it's an instrumental? What do you do? Where do you go?
Well, when Matt does Salisbury Hill, I play bass.
Okay.
I play a little keyboard here and there, not a lot. Rio's got that covered pretty much. I just supplement in a couple of the songs. If I have nothing else to do, I would probably just leave the stage, or I'm not going to pick up a tambourine. It's not that kind of music. Get the crowd going, If it's a song that I'm not involved with, I will just, take a break and relax.
Yeah, Rio's kind of a one-man orchestra.
He can be, yeah. It's only when he realized that if there's a part that he's only got two hands that he can't have. Much the same with Jim Gilmore and Saga. If there's a part that it requires a third or fourth hand, it's usually me. So.
Yeah. So Saga was always sort of a hybrid between a pop and prog rock band. Was that something that you specifically brought to the band, or was it a group interest?
I think that was a natural thing that happened. I mean, you've got Jim and I kind of from the early progressive influence. Ian was it wasn't a Led Zeppelin coffee band or cover band, but he was playing in a band that was playing material like that, more the hard rock stuff. Steve was strictly, I mean, he came from R&B background. And Daryl was classically trained. So you put all those things together, and you come up with, I guess, what people call the Saga sound. It was not intentional. It was just a natural thing that progressed or started out that way. One thing that we did make sure of, and still to this day, if we're putting together a new song or working on new material, if anybody in the room, if any of the five of us say, "Oh, that reminds me of such and such," oh, okay, well, we can't do that. So we will not use that part. Doesn't matter how great the part is. If it reminds any of us of something else, we don't use it. And also anything goes. I mean, uh, I mean, just short of doing an out and out country and western song or that, we're not shy of trying new things, as people have seen over the years. We've kind of, done this and that. And I think you've got to do that. I think you can't just do the same record over and over and over, just changing the titles and the lyrics a little bit. But I won't mention any bands that do that, because I don't talk like about others that way. But
Yeah.
no, you're right though. We fall into that this kind of gray area. We're not quite hard rock enough for the rock audience, and not quite prog for the really pure prog, the ethereal, that more meandering, walking through the forest and the elves and that kind of thing, prog. So I mean, those are the two extreme, Motorhead on this side and that kind of stuff on the other side.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle. So. But we have enough of these fans, of the rock fans that come over, enough of the prog fans that come over, and that's what we end up with, this kind of hybrid of the two.
So I want to talk a little bit about Worlds Apart for a minute. This album came out in '81 and just over 40 years ago. So this is, I mean, that seems incredible to me. I'm sure it seems unbelievable to you as well.
when we hit our 10th anniversary, I thought, whoa.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously it's the band's most commercially successful album. The two big hits, On the Loose and Wind 'Em Up. As a musical performer, when you guys are in the studio writing this thing, does it feel any different than the earlier albums that came before it?
In a way, again, it was a natural thing, and I don't know what happened, but a lot of it has to do sometimes when you're writing new stuff, what everybody's been influenced by, what's happening in your personal life and this kind of thing. So again, unintentional, but I do remember feeling like there was something special about what we were doing at that moment. The whole environment, the fact that we've changed to working with Rupert and Stephen Taylor, and we suddenly find ourselves in England, living together in a house, putting together the material, and just working it, like deciding on which songs ahead of time, instead of going to the studio and saying, well, let's record 15 and choose the best 9 or 10 or whatever. We've got specific and said, this is going to be the album. It's going to be these songs. And we've just worked them and worked them and worked them. So really, what happened was we ended up getting into the studio, and it was more. There was no rehearsal in terms of putting the song together. We had the song. Now it was the fun part. We'd done all that already. So now it was just time to get creative, especially with Rupert. I mean, between Rupert and Stephen Taylor, there was no shortage of ideas and what to bring to it production-wise. So it left a lot of time to do that. But yeah, I think we could all agree that there was something different about this one that we couldn't put our finger on it, but there was something going on for sure.
Do you recall any particular input that Rupert Hine had that sort of put a different kind of stamp on the album, or did he just was he just there to get the best out of it?
He was there to get the best out of everybody. He had some ideas along the way, but as a vocalist, one specific one, I've told the story a few times, well, more than a few times, but for example, we were doing Wind 'Em Up. I was doing the vocal for Wind 'Em Up, and it was all done. And there's the quiet section in the middle where it breaks down, and I sing it an octave lower, just wind him up, he can't stop. And we did it, and we were listening back to it. And this is like the last thing we did in the evening that day. We listened back to it and thought, yeah, it's pretty good. And then Rupert said, it's not quite, what I'm hearing as the approach from your performance. Let's leave it for tonight, and we'll try it again maybe first thing in the morning when your voice is slightly different, or maybe a little bit gruffer or whatever, and we'll try it that way. I said, okay. And the next morning, I'm guessing it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm asleep in my bed, which is right across the parking lot. It's Farmyard Studios, the farmyard, the barn being the live room and studio, and the stables were converted into the accommodation. So right across as I say, the parking lot. I'm in my bed. I hear something, and the door opens. I just barely open my eyes. I hear my door opens, and in comes the assistant with a boom and the mic attached and the cables and headphones. And he reached down, he put the headphones on my head. Well, my head's still on the pillow at this point. And he took the boom, brought the mic down in front of me, and I'm just laying there. And then I hear I hear Stephen Taylor's voice going, "Morning, Michael." Morning, Stephen. Right, you know the part. I was 4 bars before it. Just sing along when you know where you are. All right. So the track came up, and it got to that section, and I just sang it maybe 2 or 3 times, and I didn't even think about it. I just wind him up, because I just woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "All right, that'll do it." 2 minutes later, the assistant came in, took all the stuff, closed the door, and I just lay there going, "What just happened?" Did it just happen? So I put my house coat on, I went across, and there's Rupert and Stephen sitting there. I said, "Oh, good morning." I said, "Check it out." I said, "Okay." And he played it back, and I thought, son of a bitch. That's exactly what he was looking for. And I could see what he was looking for. And there's no way that you can simulate that, right? Make it sound like you just woke up. And he's thinking, well, let's get him when he just woke up, but don't tell him, because then he won't prepare for it. So that's the kind of thing that and the other scary thing about working with Rupert and Stephen, I'll never forget this, watching, standing back behind the console, and they're sitting there listening to something, and they stop the track, and you just see Rupert turn his head towards Stephen, and Stephen looks back at him. Not a word was exchanged. And they just, like a nod. Stephen leaned forward, and he adjusted something. They played it again. Then they looked at each other, and Rupert just went, and I thought, what? They were so in tune with one another about how to get certain things that it went beyond even having to speak. It was a look, I guess, he gave him. It's like, we need more of that, so, and to me, it was like, whoa, this is otherworldly, man.
Yeah.
But it was stuff like that. Yeah, having me sit on a beam in the live room about 40 feet in the air to do On the Loose, because he wanted a sense of angst, so.
Yeah. Get a little more tension.
Yeah.
So, of course, at that time, one of the necessary evils of being in music was making music videos. So what was it like for you as a singer to have to become a video star?
I mean, when we first did, when it was first proposed, we got to do, hey guys, we're going to do a music video. We're like, what's that kind of thing? Well, the idea being, you'll mime the song as if you're performing it. For one half of it is that, and the other half will be like a little movie, like a storyline. And we're like, what? Okay. It was interesting. I mean, it was the cool thing about it was that MTV was, I mean, just starting out, and we already had 2 videos in the can. So whoever suggested this, and probably management at the time, between the record company and management, they got ahead of the curve. So we had content, and because MTV didn't have a lot, we slid in there right at the beginning. So we got amazing amount of airplay to push On the Loose, and mine, especially On the Loose. So it was great that way. But I mean, it suddenly, like you say, you suddenly have to be an actor, as it were, and it's at first I found it a bit corny.
Yeah.
I look back now, and that confirms my feeling. But
Yeah.
it was a necessary and very, very useful tool, and still is. I mean, look what it's become. It's almost all about that. The song is almost secondary in the meantime when you look at some of the videos out there. But
Yeah, I can imagine you looking back at yourself being Aldo in the Wind 'Em Up video.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
So you did
Completely.
Rupert. You did have Rupert Hine again for Heads or Tails, and you
Yep.
you went to the same place. And I mean, the album to me is a very, I think, qualitatively, it's not much different than Worlds Apart, but very different reception, at least here in the U.S. What do you attribute that to? Is that radio play, or is that
I have, well,
something
yeah,
else?
I mean, yeah, I have a theory about that, and it's not, throwing stones or pointing fingers and that kind of thing. But I think what happens is when you have a successful album, very, quite successful album like Worlds Apart and a couple of hit singles off of it, when it's time to deliver the next one, I think there's an expectation from the record company. They're just doing their jobs. That you can deliver an album that's as good as the one before it, the one that was the big hit in that. But unless it's this much better, the enthusiasm of receiving it isn't like it was with Worlds Apart, because you've just got to really top it. But the fact of the matter is, it could have been a double album almost,
Mhm.
like Worlds Apart and Heads or Tails. So it was as strong an album in its own way, I think, and a lot of people agree. But I think, and it wasn't a matter of dropping the ball. I understand their point. And if you don't have that enthusiasm from the record company and they're right behind you, they still, pushed it in that, but not in the same way that they did Worlds Apart.
Mhm.
Um, and it's, like I say, it's not throwing stones or pointing fingers. It's just the way it was. And, it was just I guess the way it was perceived. It's like, oh, yeah, this record's okay. Well, no, because you were expecting another Worlds Apart, you've got one, but you want to have you want it to have the same kind of impact that Worlds Apart had, but because that's already done that with Worlds Apart, you can't, you can't there's no way to do that, so
Right. You're not making
I
On the Loose Part Two.
no, and if you're expecting that, although it could be another song that could be as strong, like the I don't know, Flyer or whatever. Um, but again, if you're expecting Worlds Apart Part Two, this isn't it in terms of uh, your excitement level.
Yeah.
Also, because it was brand new to you, the band was brand new to you, and so
You never
you were
forget your first time. There's always
there.
a
You
bigger
go.
association with your first time.
Of course, of course.
Um, it's hard to believe, but it's also been a while since your solo album Clear came out. In was it 2001?
Five or something like
Early
back then.
2000s. But
Back then.
with Saga being a prolific band with more than 20 albums out there, is that why there weren't more Michael Sadler solo albums, or were you
Probably,
just too
yeah.
busy?
Yeah, I mean, it took me better part of 8 or 9 years to make Clear, and that's because of that. It's because I
Mhm.
was, um, what I was doing solo wise was completely secondary to Saga, and it was just finding moments of time to be able to work on it. So I'd do a month here and then 2 months there.
Mhm.
Sometimes a year and a half would go by and I did nothing. Um, and I think it was kind of cool doing it that way, because I would, that time would go by, then I'd revisit it and listen to some things and just, oh, that's not quite right yet. And that, um, but yeah, it's finding the time to do it. I have material that I'm ready to start, at least considering recording for part
Mhm.
two. Um, the way I see it is like almost like a trilogy, and it's a 3 album package, because Clear is about, well, the song specifically Clear is about Clear was I'm uh, an alcoholic that has been sober for coming up on 20 years. Um,
Congratulations.
thank you. And Clear, the song, was the first song I wrote after I got out of rehab. I did the whole rehab thing. So um, I wanted to call the album Clear, and specifically that song, and it's addressing that. Part two about what it's like being clear, because there's an adjustment you have to make, because suddenly you're not, using, and whatever whatever your poison was, you're not doing that anymore. So you have a whole different way to look at life and how you behave in that. So I want to treat number two like that, and then three, wrap things up. Ideally, is what I'd like to do. So we'll see what happens.
We've also lent your voice to many musical projects over the years. There's a new Alan Simon album, Excalibur 5, that came out. How did you get involved with Alan?
My first, actually, this is 6 Degrees of Separation. John Wetton, the Excalibur live show. Was about to go. I was on tour with Saga at the time. I was in Oslo, Norway, and I checked into the hotel, and like I always do, opened the laptop to check messages and that. And I had a message from the management, I guess Alan's management in England, and explained the whole thing. And John was supposed to be King Arthur in the newest production they were about to take out in about 3 or 4 months, like early in the following year. And I was reading it going, what? It said because of John's illness, he had to pull out. And would you be interested in, the role of King Arthur? And I was like, when do we start? It was like, but it was bittersweet because I knew what was happening with John, and John had his battles with alcohol as well. So we had a common ground, and we became fairly close because of that, and music and that kind of thing. But suffice to say, it was like I knew that he was ill, and getting the gig because of that was like, oh, I was, on one hand I was really excited about it, on the other hand I was like, it's kind of, as I say, it was bittersweet. But when I found out that apparently John had said publicly that he thought that I was a really good choice for it, I thought, well, I got his endorsement. That took some of the bittersweet part of it away. So yeah, and from then on, then Alan turned to me for other projects. And it's just been that way. So I think if he does another Excalibur, he's talking about taking this new Excalibur on the road again. So there's a chance I'll be going out again with them. So
all right.
I love doing outside projects because it takes me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You do the same thing all the time within Saga, even though you change. It's quite a variety of ways of singing, and that in Saga tracks from one track and one album to the other. It's still within not the confines or parameters of Saga, but it's still Saga-esque, and you're thinking that way when you sing and perform. But when you do outside projects, it's really, someone has an idea of what they want to hear. Sometimes that you have to adhere very closely to what they want or expect. They know what they're getting because they know, what my voice sounds like, but they have a clear idea of how the melody and this and that should go. And those times it's like, okay, you deliver exactly what they want, with maybe a little bit of your ideas or whatever. And sometimes you're handed something and say, do what you want. It's like, well, wait a minute. You got to give me some kind of starting point here, Yeah. But it's fun. I mean, like I say, it gives me a chance to sing in different ways, and that much like doing ProgJect, where I'm doing different vocalists and from different different bands. So yeah, it's a chance to spread my my repertoire and test my talents, I guess, as it were.
Is that something that you go into your home studio and you record it and you send the tracks in?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Another thing that you did was a very interesting project. It was a musical accompaniment for a series of novels by Kevin J. Anderson. It was the band was called Roswell Six, and the books were Terra Incognita. I got the first one right here.
There you go.
And I really like this album, and I especially like the song you did, "Letters in a Bottle." I thought that was probably my favorite track on there. How did you get involved with Roswell Six?
I think that was through a gentleman named Sean Gordon, who had Prog Rock Records at the time.
Yep.
I believe that was the introduction to Kevin Anderson and the whole recording. I think Eric Norlander had a lot to do with the music of the album, as far as I remember.
Yes.
And I think Sean contacted me and said he explained the whole project to me. He said there's one track that, we or whoever thinks that would suit your voice. Yeah, that's where that came from. But that's what usually happens. I'll just get a call out of the blue, and someone will generally say, I've got a song that I think would suit your voice. Not, because contrary to popular belief, I can't sing just everything. Some things just don't sound right with me singing it. And that's just the way it is. Case in point, I always thought the Cars song Drive was one of the most beautiful ballads ever written, and the lyrics and the whole thing about it. And I thought I'd love to try that. And I got a friend to do like an acoustic version of it, kind of stripped down version of it. I thought this would be really nice to sing. So I did it. And I sang it. I sang the notes, and I sang it like me. I listened back to it. I went, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work with my voice for some reason, and that's just the way it is, It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So I think I've only turned down one or two things over the years, and it's only because I thought that I'm not the right one for you. I don't think I'm going to do the song justice. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not in love with the song, but if I don't feel really strongly about the song or what I'm going to sing, I'm not going to give you my best performance. I'm just going to give you what you want to hear, but not give it that extra, like an extra harmony here and there, or stack up some vocals in the chorus and that, because I'm not vested in the song. Yeah. The more vested I am, the more I'm going to be, bring me to the table. So if I hear something and I just go, it's an okay song, and quite frankly, I think you'd be better off with someone else or whatever, I do that. It just saves time, and it just, the person who thought they were going to hire me is going to end up in a better place, I think, if they, gone through with it, and then it's too late in the day, they've got it recorded and go, well, it doesn't really suit his voice, but we've got it now. So
ultimately, it's to serve the song.
Of course it is. It's always about that, as far as I'm concerned.
So I recently had the pleasure of having Rachel Flowers on the program, and I know that you know Rachel and worked with Rachel. How did you two meet up and record together?
I had heard about her because of, I think, ProgJect or Cruise to the Edge she was on also. But I had not heard her play. I had not seen her do her thing. And then we were going to do ProgJect, or sorry, I'm losing it now. The festival in New Jersey.
Okay.
ProgJect. ProgJect. Yeah. ProgJect, sorry. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, and I always liked the idea of doing a cover of Nights in White Satin. I had a chance to see her perform, and then I thought to myself, and I was talking about it with my wife, and I said, what might be really cool is to do a version of Nights in White Satin, just piano and voice, but not just anybody playing piano, her playing piano and voice. And we approached her about it, got in touch with her privately, and she said, yeah. So she recorded a version of it, sent it to me, and I listened to it, and I was like, whoa. I mean, the funny thing about listening to her play it is that you don't miss anything. You don't miss any of the orchestration. Everything's there. And I'm thinking, how are you doing this with just two hands and a piano? But somehow nothing is lacking. And I've always loved to do that. So I recorded a proper version of it in Germany years ago. I did 4 tracks of a Moody Blues album, and that was one of them. And my range and Justin's are the sweet spot, as it's called, that area in between the extreme highs and lows, are very similar. So it was easy to sing the song for me, and I loved the song anyway. So she delivered me that version of it, and I sang on it, recorded it. We made a little 3-song EP about it, actually, that we put out. Mm-hmm. But I had a chance to perform it live with her at ProgJect, and it's just, I mean, for us, the audience apparently really liked it. Um, but for me, it's like when I had a chance to first do Rendezvous 602. Um, it's just right. I love singing with just piano because it's so much more expressive, and the vocalist and the pianist are playing off one another, and it's great, and especially with a song like Nice White Satin. And yeah, it's just I'd like to do some original material with Rachel, and we talked about that, but it's finding the time and coordinating our schedules to do that. So
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
yeah, I agree.
Michael, what is the status of Saga right now? What's coming next? What's the deal?
We have all those shows that I'm looking at on the screen. Um, Apparently, the restrictions and COVID protocols are such that it looks as though, fingers crossed, there's a tour planned. There's a bunch of dates to, I mean, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, between 20 and 30 shows that are booked right now. There's a list of them that you can see if you go to sagagen.com. There's a list of the tour dates for 2022. But it looks like things are, I was going to say getting back to normal. I don't think we'll ever get back to what was normal. I think there's a new norm. But yeah, right now the plan is to get out there and do all these shows. We'll see. I mean, and plus now I've got ProgJect as well, so I'm kind of fitting the two together. So I'm going to be extremely busy next year if all goes well, and then the COVID protocols stay the way they are right now, where apparently shows are taking place. Although it's such an evolving thing that day to day it's changing. So it's still a matter of crossing our fingers. But right now we've got a lot of shows on. Hey, it's been since the beginning of 2020. We got a lot of people that we got to say hello to. We miss you guys.
Well,
But
fingers
yeah,
crossed. Fingers
yeah,
crossed you
yeah,
can get out there.
yeah.
Michael Sadler, it has been an honor and privilege to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time being on Michael's Record Collection, and best of luck with ProgJect. I can't wait to see you
Thank you.
guys in April.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's been my pleasure, man.